Langa, the oldest township in the Western Cape, is commemorating its centenary this year. In honouring Human Rights Day, Cape Town Mayor Geordin Hill-Lewis is announcing plans to give Langa Township a facelift. Plans include the restoration of historical monuments, precinct improvements and series of community events. He's speaking at the moment. Let's take you there live.
Tourists coming to Langa. We want to see that happening. So, residents of Langa, councillors, members of the press, and all of those members of the community and other interested parties joining us here today. How wonderful to be able to stand here in celebration of this incredible milestone of Langa's centenary, the beginning of that centenary. We meet today at the Gugustebe Cultural Centre, a public space where people come together and enjoy music, art and performance right here in the heart of Langa. The centre is a hive of activity in Langa, with its own amphitheatre here, an indoor theatre. It is a place we are proud of as the city of Cape Town, and it's my privilege to host you all here today. We are celebrating 100 years since Langa's official declaration as a township. 100 years of people's stories, history, culture and heritage, born in the pain and difficulty and segregation of apartheid and its predecessors, but over the decades, over the last century, grown up into this wonderful, diverse, eclectic, vibrant Cape Town community. It is particularly special to meet here in Langa on Human Rights Day, a day when we remember and commemorate those who paid a heavy price for South Africa's freedom. Most of us will know about Human Rights Day from school, and I note that Councillor Pakadi and I started our political journeys together in student politics, and we will associate Human Rights Day mostly with Sharpeville massacre. The same day is etched onto Langa's history too, as thousands of Langa residents gathered that day without their passbooks to march to the Langa police station just 200 meters down the road from here. Following the events of Sharpeville earlier that tragic day, the situation here in Langa was extremely tense. Police were heavily armed, and initially, organizers called the march off. But Langa residents were having none of it. Soon they gathered again, in the early evening. Sadly, the response from the police was one of deadly force. At least 3 people died, but some eyewitnesses put the figure considerably higher. And many more were injured as police opened fire on protesters. A horrible tragedy. History will remember with honor those killed here in Langa 63 years ago. And the sacrifice will stand as one of the major turning points in South Africa and indeed Cape Town's struggle for liberation. So we dedicate today and the centenary celebration to Langa's heroes. And we acknowledge the contributions that so many talented Langa residents have made to Cape Town and South Africa over the years. While today is partly an opportunity to talk about Langa's famous contributions to history and the landmarks which remember those contributions, and how we plan to preserve those for the next century, it is also an occasion to reflect on the people who have left a big mark in politics, in music, in culture, on sports fields, and so on over the last 100 years. People like our much-loved Brenda Fassie, the talented Tsolekile cousins, Tami and Protea cricket players, and Lungile, the South African hockey player, football star Thabo Ngomeni, and playwright and theatre director Fats Dike, who was the first black woman in South Africa to have a play published. And of course we can't speak, as someone has shouted out already, we can't speak of notable Langa citizens without mentioning, surely must be its current most famous son, Themba Bavuma, our national Proteas captain. While Langa is celebrating its centenary, Themba seems to be celebrating several of his own centenaries in recent games, with an incredible recent run of centuries of his own. 2 one-day international centuries in 3 games, followed by back-to-back test centuries. Themba might be very small in stature, those who have met him will know, but he is turning out to be a giant for Cape Town and for South Africa. Langa has been a crucial part of Cape Town's fabric for all of the last century. And I have no doubt that over the next 100 years, we'll deliver an even more impressive list of achievements and contributions from this suburb, this community. As the city, we want to ensure that Langa is primed to make the most of its business and
right,
tourism
that is
potential.
Cape Town Mayor Geordin Hill-Lewis just talking about the plans he has for the Langa Township as today's Human Rights Day.